The story of Jesus Christ has been brought to the screen countless times since the cinema's silent era. In 1927, it was considered rather shocking that Cecil B. DeMille, that canny old showman, had the audacity to cast an actor, H.B. Warner, as Jesus, when the cautious practice until then had been not to depict Christ on screen. Australian director Garth Davis has cast Joaquin Phoenix in the role, and he's pretty good. He's a passive Christ, a gentle, thoughtful character with a kind word for everyone. But it's not his story. Davis's film, a UK-Australian co-production, is titled Mary Magdalene, and the gimmick, if you can call it that, is to tell the infinitely familiar story from the perspective of one of Christ's most loyal followers. The Mary Magdalene we see here, portrayed by the serenely beautiful Rooney Mara, is an ordinary young woman who lives with her family by the seashore, helps with the fishing, and who acts as an unofficial midwife. She encounters Jesus and the apostles during a baptism ceremony and is immediately determined to follow him. The contention of the screenplay by Helen Edmondson and Philippa Goslett is that Mary became in effect the 13th apostle, but, because she was a woman, has been written out of history. I have to say I found this all a bit hard to swallow. In the pages of the Bible, it might seem plausible that Mary could tag along while Jesus and the apostles spread the word on their way through the rocky terrain to Jerusalem. But on screen, the practicalities of the inclusion of a young and very beautiful woman into a group of men who've left their families behind opens up questions that it might be blasphemous to answer. And it doesn't help that Mary comes across as an ardent groupie, or in more modern Indian perhaps, as an intern besotted by her boss. Despite the feminist slant that characterises Davies' version of the story, it does seem rather a strange decision to revisit such familiar material. At least the film isn't as gruelling and sadistic as Mel Gibson's version, but it's also less dramatic. Because we see the events entirely from Mary's perspective, many of the key incidents are omitted. Mary manages to sleep throughout the period in which Jesus is brought before Herod and Pilate, so those characters don't even get a look in. The film's key sequence comes near the end when Peter, Chiwetel Ejiofor, has difficulty believing that the resurrected Christ would reveal himself to Mary and not to him. As for the other apostles, they barely get a look in, but simply function as a kind of Greek chorus. There's nothing wrong with any of the performances, but the concept seems unduly contrived. Thankfully, the film looks magnificent. It was filmed on locations around Puglia in southern Italy, as well as in Sicily, and the barren landscapes are superbly photographed by the exceptionally talented Australian cinematographer Greg Fraser. There's no doubt that Davis has taken some major risks with Mary Magdalene, and while they don't all pay off in a completely satisfactory way, there are still enough qualities to make this intriguing piece of revisionism somewhat alluring. I'm giving it 3 stars.